All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Stampede Network podcast. I'm your host, Mason Kuhr, aka Papa Gaines. And today, on this episode, we have an absolute wizard when it comes to the internet money side of things. This is Chris Reeder, who has done how much in student revenue?
So we just got a letter back from a network. Our students did $273 million in the last 3 years.
$273 million.
Yeah, so that's like $250 million, which is absolutely insane.
And that is in what time period? In 1 year?
So, no, the bulk of all of that is pretty much in a year, but it's over the last 3 years.
Okay, that's absurd. So before we even get into that, let's first figure out like how you got to this point, because I know I've been listening to some of your other podcasts too. Where you were talking about how when you were younger, you just wanted to be a guy in a suit, right? Yeah. So let's kind of go through the whole origin story of how you got to this point. And then I also want to get into like some of the esoteric stuff.
Yeah, 100%, man. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, let's do it. So yeah, what was the moment where, let's actually start here. So what were kind of like your beliefs growing up with money and some of the, limiting beliefs that you experienced when you were like at that phase in your life where you just thought a job was the only way to live and the only way to make money?
Yeah, so I mean, like everyone, I was just like a normie, right? Like I was just growing up, I was just pretty much a normie. I used to play video games. I went to school. So when I went to school, and even throughout school, I always knew that I wanted to like have money. Like I was always very sort of money focused, right? And so being money focused, I would always gravitate towards the subjects of like business studies and economics. So business studies and economics were like my favorite and my best subjects. Other than that, like I wasn't really good in school at all. Like I didn't really get good grades in school apart from like those two subjects. Mm-hmm. And yeah, even when I was like super young, I always was very creative. I was always actually going back before like, high school, I was very creative. I used to love animals. I was very artistic and, that sort of stuff. And then as I went into high school, I realized, I got to sort of drown all that stuff out and start focusing on like what career I want, right? Because as you go through high school, they're basically like, all right, choose the subjects that are going to line up with your career because you're going to get a job and you're going to make money, right? So, yeah, I used to be very into nature, art, creative, right? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, I've got to drown all that stuff out now and I've got to become like a businessman, And so when people asked what I wanted to do for a living, I would say, I live near Sydney, Australia. So yeah. I would be like, I want to be one of those guys, in the tall buildings wearing a suit, making money. Right. And then they'll be like, but what do you mean? And I was like, I don't know what they do. I just want to do what they do. Right. So yeah, very like programmed belief. Because like I didn't even know what they used to do, but I was just like, they're like a symbol of like power and authority in our like society. So like I obviously aspired to that with my belief system that I had.
Right. So with your family, how much did they like play into those beliefs? Like what's your family's background when it comes to stuff like that?
Yeah. So it actually plays into like the sort of. It's kind of like plays out in a pretty interesting way. So, I was very fortunate that my dad used to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. So my dad was a doctor. So they were pretty chill. They just like believed in whatever I believed in, right? So they didn't really like structure me and tell me I had to be a lawyer or a doctor or something. But it was pretty interesting when my mind shifted and like I realized I didn't want to work a regular job. Was also around the time that my dad got diagnosed with cancer and then actually like went through some shit and like ended up losing his job and through like sickness and stuff. And so that also showed me that like, we were sort of like relatively well off and then everything went to shit. And so basically it was like, well, you're in a system and if you don't like survive in the system, then you're kind of like left out and sort of like, like sort of fucked. Mm-hmm. So that sort of happened at the same time that my mind shifted through other things as well. But yeah, my parents were always very supportive in like what I did and they never like forced me down any path or anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it's like the limiting beliefs of childhood I think are like what most people, struggle with at the end of the day. And it's like, that shit's really just passed down from generation to generation. And, even with like my dad too, like I resonate with a lot of that. Because in 2008, during like that financial crisis, there were so many like negative beliefs and fears distilled about money, that we like get caught in this low vibration way of thinking, and it really does trap us into this matrix. And so that's really what I want to know from you is like, what do you define as the matrix among all these like different definitions? What do you define it as, and what was your moment where you like really woke up from it and you got out of this I'm gonna be a guy in a suit, right? And you started stepping into that new role and new version of yourself.
Yeah, so throughout high school, towards the end of like high school, we have this thing called like the HSC, which is like the higher school certificate. And that basically means it's two tests that you do at the end of like your very high school career. And whatever score you get basically ranks you in like Australia. And so like all the smartest people get the highest ranks, they can get the highest jobs. So it's like a ranking system. And so just after through HSC, I was going through like, and through, towards the end of high school, I was going through like a lot of like depression and like anxiety and stuff, like some really, bad stuff. And I remember during one of my HSC, or during one of my English subjects, I had to analyze the movie Citizen Kane. And so I don't know if you've seen Citizen Kane, but it's like a black and white film about some dude who is like a oligarchy in the media business, and he's like the guy that has it all. He has like the big mansion, but he's like super isolated. And the film flashes back in time, and like the whole premise of the film is like he's like reflecting back on his life that led him to like this position. And my thesis on the movie was like about your perception, because like the movie itself was trying to give the viewer a different perception of his life through like flashbacks and stuff. And so when I did that thesis on that movie, that was the first time I had ever personally actually realized what perception actually is and how powerful your perception is. So that one English assessment pretty much spurred the whole journey for me, because it sort of woke me up to realize, wow, like your perception is actually your reality, and whatever you perceive and whatever's coming into your like field of view and whatever you perceive in your field of view, that is what your life actually ultimately is. And so if I had never done that English assessment, or was never like prescribed that movie, I would have never, like I never thought about perception, which I think is crazy, because it's the biggest thing in my life now. And that was the first time I actually realized it, and it actually came into my sort of like, reality of like how important it is.
Right.
So that was pretty like a synchronistic thing to happen.
Okay. So how you said perception's a big part of your reality now, like how so?
Yeah, because like whatever happens in your life, it's all about perception. So, and your perception of life also dictates the reality you live in, because it's gonna, perceptions your awareness, right? So if you have a certain awareness, like the level of awareness you have, basically predicates like the survival you're gonna have. Like if you don't have the awareness to like not walk on the road, you could get hit by a car. If you don't have the awareness to start an online business, you're going to be stuck in a job. If you don't have the awareness to eat healthy food, you're going to be overweight. So every single thing that you do in your life comes from your level of awareness, and like, and so it's not so much necessarily how smart you are, it's about the awareness level that you have. So that's like the biggest thing, because even the thoughts that you think come from your awareness, because when your awareness is at a certain level, you sort of, that's the driving factor. That's where you sort of break out of the matrix, so to say. Like Neo became Neo because he had like such a high level of awareness that he could like perceive everything more than the regular person.
Yeah, it's like you catch thoughts at that point. It's like I was talking about that the other day. I was just walking through the airport, and bro, it's like there's so many people that just even lack awareness of the environment around them, right?
Yeah.
It's like everyone's just like kind of stuck in this like beta. And for those that don't know what like beta brainwaves are, they're like super, super focused. It's what most people spend their time in, especially like caffeine going around all the time. But is we kind of release and relax our brainwaves, we get into this expanded state of awareness. And so, since you're so knowledgeable on that, what are some ways that someone could start to gain increased awareness? How could they increase the awareness in pretty much every aspect of their life? Like, what are some exercises they can do, and what are like books you've read, things to really help them expand their, get out of those blind sides?
Yeah, so your awareness basically is built up. I would say the best way to build your awareness up is just start thinking more in terms of that, and start realizing, the basic analogy of like one person walks down a street, they see a bee, they think, oh, like what a beautiful bee, what beautiful flowers. Another person sees a bee and they start getting scared that they're going to get stung. So I think one thing that you should do is like if you have any sort of weird fears, like if you're scared of birds or you're scared of like a spider or you're scared of something, that's like your level of awareness. Like some people will freak out if they see a spider on the wall. And it's like, that thing's not actually going to be able to attack you right now. So
I don't know, bro. You got some of those Australian spiders. They're at a different level, bro.
That's true to some extent. I mean, if a spider like runs up my face, I'll react, But
Yeah, right.
some people have these like sort of irrational fears, and it's like you need to sort of uncover what's going on in your brain that's like causing those fears. Because if you're just scared of something, you need to figure out what the underlying thing of that is. But another thing is the more you start thinking of your awareness and the more you start thinking about the thoughts that you're thinking, it's like you've just like turned on a computer in your brain. Because once you realize that you can control your thoughts, and once you realize that once you have awareness on your thoughts, that is like a muscle that just keeps growing. Mm-hmm. And there's a story about this guy back in the day that was apparently really bad. It's like a real story. I forgot his name. He was really bad at math, and like all his teachers said, like, you're going to fail, you're going to suck. And this guy purely focused on mathematics, and he became like a human calculator. Like he could divide pi. And so he was originally, really bad at math, but through like attention in his mind and building his awareness up and actually learning, he built the brain to be able to become like a human calculator. And so it's all about just realizing that your brain is so malleable and so adaptable, and it can evolve so much just from the thoughts that you have. Like your brain literally only evolves from the thoughts that you have. So if you're consistently trying to think about things in a different way, you're always going to be growing your brain. Compared to, if you just finished high school and you've never done any learning outside of high school, like your brain's not going to be evolved as someone that's consistently learning, consistently thinking. And another thing as well is like a practice of like self-inquiry. So it's kind of like meditation, but just sit and think about stuff. Sit and think about your day, sit and think about your plans, sit and think about your life. Come to different understandings around your own reality. And that ultimately is just going to grow your brain and grow like the connections you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you're super into like the whole, just the consciousness world. So like, what are your spiritual beliefs? Did you ever grow up religious or anything?
So I went to a school that we had like, what was it called? We had like Christian studies and stuff, and we did like chapel.
Yeah.
But it was never really forced down. It wasn't really forced on us. So, I mean, my family is not like super religious, but like they're like, they probably are like Christian, but they're not like religious, if you know what I mean. Like I never went to church or anything.
Right.
But so it all sort of links in. The way I found sort of spirituality was like the same way I sort of quote unquote like woke up.
Yeah.
So just to like flash back to high school, when I came out of high school, I was going to university, and I watched this documentary called Zeitgeist. So this is where it gets interesting. So
Dude,
Zeitgeist,
watch Zeitgeist. Yeah, I've seen it.
yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. When did you watch Zeitgeist? How long ago did you
I
watch it?
think I was 13, 12 or 13.
13. Wow, way back.
Yeah, it's way back, bro. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Do they even have it out? Where can you find it anymore? You
So
know?
you can. I'm pretty sure you can watch it on YouTube, or if not, it's like a free version on Google
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, anyone who
But,
hasn't seen it, watch it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Zeitgeist. So I'd never watched anything like that before. I'd never ever thought anything like that before. I always thought, some stuff in the world is a bit, odd, but I'd never watched Zeitgeist or anything like that before. So I watched that documentary, and then my whole life, my literal whole life, like changed from that point. So the person who I was before I watched that was like, I don't even remember what that person was like compared to the person after I watched it. And so this is also when I was going through some shit, so I watched that, and then I was like, I have like no idea what the world even is anymore. Like everything's a lie. And so I spent like the next 3 months watching literally every single thing I could watch. Before that, I was very big into like watching different content, like documentaries, and like I was into like philosophy and stuff. But then this opened like a whole new world of like thinking about the world, like a whole new, path. And so I spent like 3 months just watching literally every single thing I could about these sort of topics, which, are conspiracy topics or whatever. And the way I see it is like, it just gives me more awareness of the world, whether it's real, whether it's not. It's all, people build theories in their head every day. So like, if you're just trying to develop a different understanding of how the world works and like how I think the world actually is ran by certain people and groups and stuff. So yeah, 3 months down the rabbit hole, came out of that. I was like, the world is fucked. I was like, everything makes sense now. I was like, every single thing makes sense. No one has any understanding of like what's happening in the world. They're all just like financial instruments for the people at the top, and everyone's just stuck in this little system.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I was like, I cannot be a part of the system. Like, I can't get a job. And then realizing the sort of negative stuff that is happening around the world, how some of these like high level things actually believe in like super negative stuff. I was like, all right, well, then I was introduced to this documentary called Thrive, and it was similar to Zeitgeist, but it discussed like universal laws.
Oh, now we get into the good stuff. All right, yeah.
Yeah. So then I was then open up to universal laws, and then I understood like what fractal patterns were and how like everything in the world is based on like fractals from, our hand is like the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio. It's like this to that, to that, to like that. And like every plant is like a fractal. And, I dabbled in like some psychedelics. So I like explored my mind, and I realized like even our thoughts are like fractal patterns. And that's why limiting beliefs are so like enrooted in people. It's because your original patterns of your mind and your psyche are from your parents. And so then you're going to keep building those, just like a tree. If a tree's got like a bent, stump from when it's born, it's going to keep fractaling and growing from that bent stump.
Right.
And then I was like, all right, well, that in itself, the golden, what's it called? Sorry, sacred geometry, like the circle,
Yeah.
Everyone's seen the circle where all the circles are connected. Like the human egg originally comes from that. Like if you look at it, when a human's conceived, like a cell goes through that sacred geometry pattern, because it's like the foundational, it's like the physical form. It's like how energy is like manifested in the physical world.
Yeah, like a torus, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, so for the people listening that have no idea what a fractal is, can you explain a fractal?
Yeah, so a fractal is just like when one thing starts and then something branches off it. So if you look at a tree, well, if we look, so I don't know if every single thing's a fractal. So this tree, these are like all sort of fractals.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, if you look at a tree leaf or just even a tree branch, it starts and then it goes up. A human egg, when a human's born, is a fractal. It starts as like one cell, it splits into two, splits, and it keeps splitting, and it creates like a pattern. And the pattern's always the pattern's always perfect. So this is this is some pretty like deep stuff that I don't know if many people have thought about and stuff, but
yeah, no, we're going deep. If we're talking about awareness, we're going to increase it a little bit. So, I mean, with like fractals and stuff, I guess you could say that, I mean, that would make us like fractals of God, right?
Yeah, well, so that's the whole thing. So I'm not deeply Christian. I don't have like I'm really like spiritual in a sense, and I know like Christian people sort of hate when people say that, but I think I think the universe and stuff is like based on certain like patterns and frequencies, and so like there's this thing called like the Mandelbrot set, where somebody created like this mathematical equation, and when it's fed into itself, it creates this like infinite fractal. Mm-hmm. And that's like quote unquote like the fingerprint of God, because if God is real or the Big Bang, what that did is that created like fractals, and fractals are like self-propelling things, and they will like consistently evolve and grow, which is like the Earth, which is like humans.
I've seen a theory, I forget what book it was, but basically it was like, our perception in this world is like so limited to like what a god would be. It's like us looking at a snail, right? So it's like if a snail was, I don't know if it's slithering, it's snailing, whatever it is. It's doing its thing. And that thing's in front of us, right? It's going super slow. And time to this thing is just like really, really expanded, right? We could put our finger like a foot in front of this thing. It gets there like a year later in its time, and it doesn't even realize what's happened, because to that snail, we're like God, and we have just changed its destiny. To us, it's this like super short amount of time. To that snail, it's a long amount of time, right? And so that's like relativity at play. And so I've had this conversation so many times before where it's like, what if it's the same thing with like a creator to us, where it's just so massive and so expansive that, just like snapping your fingers is like eons and eons of time for us. And, something like the Big Bang being like the creator opening their eyes, right? And so one time I was doing some plant medicine too, and one of the insights that I had on that journey was that we're a meditation in the mind of God, right? And so that was a very, very, very profound thing for me. And so it was really like this moment where everything expanded, and it's so hard to explain, but it was like I could feel the energy coming out of my mind and almost like connect to the entire globe, and the globe like went into my mind, and it was like this torus field of energy. It was so surreal, dude, but I don't even know.
I've had similar.
Yeah, I'm going to hear about some of your experiences.
Where you can feel like an energy. Well, it's interesting because when you look at like quantum physics and stuff, so the way I look at like spirituality and everything, it's like, it's not even like, it's like very legitimate if you're not into like the woo-woo stuff. Like a lot of it actually has to do with like your brain and like neural pathways and that. But, there's like you've seen the quantum experiment where they found like quantum reality where, things act as waves and particles at the same time. You've seen that like double slit experiment where they shoot a particle, and then when they're not observing it, it goes through both slits. But then when they observe it, it goes through one slit, and then it also acts as a wave and a particle. So that proves that pretty much frequencies, the whole Earth is like based on frequencies, and that when you observe it, so your perception of the or when it's observed, the awareness is put onto it, it affects the outcome. So that shows how powerful your awareness is. And, the atom, so now they've come out saying like the atom doesn't look like what we got shown in a science book. It's actually like a pulse. It's actually like an energetic pulsing thing. So I don't know if you've seen those new sort of photos of what an atom looks
like. A pulse of a pulse of
Yeah, it's like
consciousness.
a pulse of energy. So it doesn't just, you know how we're taught it's like, it's got the circle in the center of the atom, and you think, oh, it's like this little floaty thing. But it's actually like a pulse of energy. So like imagine like a water drop or something. It's like that.
Yeah, I
Um,
think of that because I like to connect, universal laws and religion, all that stuff, and that's what I want to know from you too. Is like, how do you discern truth and find truth? Because you're very good at finding that as well, and I think that's why we're aligned. But like, I hear something like that, my mind immediately goes like, consciousness. That's like the heartbeat of God, right? The heartbeat of consciousness.
yeah. Yeah, well, there's like these new things coming out where, there's like some somatics. So when you put sand on a speaker and you play a frequency through it, the sand forms a structure and a pattern because everything's sort of like a vibration. So that I remember seeing that ages ago, but now what people are doing is they're actually levitate. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're like levitating water through like sound, and then when they play a frequency with it, this like water drop becomes like a sort of shape.
Yeah,
And
I've seen
now, yeah, and have you seen the thing recently where someone got like five of those shapes and layered them over each other, and it had like a human face? Have you seen that? Like the
no,
way,
what?
yeah. So this dude got like five different like water things, put frequencies in them, and it created this like cross section of this like pattern, and then he layered five of them, and it literally had like a human face on it. So that's like what is happening in like reality. It's like certain vibrations coming in and like creating this world. That's what I think.
Yeah, so it's like that's what when people say the universe is a projection, is that what they're saying?
Yeah, I think, yeah. And it's pretty interesting because, I mean, for most people that know me, they've probably never heard me speak like this, like online and stuff, which is pretty crazy. But, because I do have, because you know me through the other private Instagram I have where I speak a lot about this stuff.
Right, yeah, where you're a wizard. Man's a wizard undercover, bro.
Yeah, so, but that's interesting. I can send you a link to that. That's like pretty mind blowing. But in terms of the brain and like spiritual quant and stuff, yeah. So I always realized like your level of like consciousness is gonna like affect your life. So I always was very interested in, like I was always interested in psychology, and then when I discovered spirituality and like consciousness, I was like, wow, this is like philosophy, but like on a higher level. So I was like, what can I do to like positively influence my consciousness to become like a better person?
Yeah, I
And
think. Oh, go
yeah,
for it. Not to cut you off.
I know, and I was like, and that's I think that just then creates like this feedback loop that you've obviously experienced. It's like once you're on like this self development, your consciousness is like the machine that drives everything. So you should always be looking towards that.
Right. So because it seems like the majority of success isn't really like us doing much other than allowing, our awareness to expand. And it's just like the actions seem to fall into place. So, that would mean that blind spots are really like the only challenge we have to deal with. So it's like, how do you identify your blind spots? Because your growth has just been so disgustingly fast, bro. Like that's where you have conquered the game, is just destroying the blind spots. So yeah, how would you walk someone through that?
That's a good that's a good concept. Yeah, I've never really considered the blind spots, but I think just trying to have as much of an understanding of like the world as possible, because then that means you're going to be able to navigate the world as much as possible. So, and like developing yourself to have the resources to like overcome blind spots. Because when you're on a path, let's just say like there's some analogies that I have. So let's say like you're on a path and you get lost on the path. Most people get lost in life, but they don't realize that they're lost. So then they just keep wandering. But if you realize that you're lost, you're going to do every single thing that you can and like deploy all the resources you can to like find the path again. And so I feel like a lot of people don't realize that like life is like a journey. Well, I mean, they do, but life is like a path and it's a journey. And you sort of dictate the path that you're on. But if you don't have the awareness to see the path that you're on, you're not even going to realize that. And you're just going to get, go to university, get a job, get another job, get a house. You're just going to be on the path that's set for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, to answer your question about the blind spots, I mean, it's just about, if you just can know as much as you can, then it's going to benefit you in the long run,
Right. Do you believe in destiny?
So in terms of like just destiny, or in terms of like the sort of faith element of destiny, or just destiny itself?
Well, so this was very interesting. So I took this Alex Becker course a long time ago, right, when I got into the e-commerce space. And we went through the mindset portion of this. And it was basically saying how, and you obviously know about aligning to your highest path, right? So getting on the highest path for you, whatever that is. And I think we all do have an innate knowing of what that is for us. But I was watching one of these course modules, and Becker was talking about how basically like when we get to a point in our journey where we could split to a different path, based on our past programming already, we're already predetermined to make the choice that we were going to make at that path. So it's like, are we even consciously making that decision to align to that path, or were we destined to do so anyway based off of our past experiences and where we started in the game?
Well, so that's where so I fully understand that. So that's where your awareness comes into play, because that's like the concept of if there's free will or not. And that's where like Neo, was in a world in the Matrix where he had no free will until he got a level of awareness to realize that he did. Mm-hmm. So I actually feel like there is a point where you can like break out of that trap. And it's the same thing with fractals. Your reality, I believe there's like infinite timelines, and there's a reality where there is literally a reality out there now that I never watched. I never did that thesis on perception. So I'm never at this point. So there's like a reality out there that I'm not who I am now because I didn't take that action. And there's also a reality where we didn't do this podcast. And there's a reality where I didn't drink this. There's a reality where I didn't like sip right now. So I think there's like infinite realities. And I do think that you get to choose that. But I do think it compounds. So if you smoke crack when you're in high school, that version of you is like, I went down this path, the version of me that smoked crack in high school is like down here. And that's like infinitely harder to get to here. And so like there's points where they branch out and you can't really get into like other like little bubbles and stuff. Mm-hmm. Just like, if you started surfing when you were like, 2 years old, even if I start surfing now, I'm never going to be as good as that version of me, Mm-hmm. So that's why it's always important to start now. But I do feel like it is a feedback loop. And I feel like, I don't know, the universe, you can start working with the universe, and it's like a dance, right? Mm-hmm. And the more you sort of get on the path, the more it like leads you to new opportunities. Because I feel like, when I watched that Perception, Citizen Kane, that then led to like all these things. And I feel like everything that I was led to at the exact right time, the exact piece of information. I met the exact right person. I did the exact right thing. And I feel like all these little things, whether or not it was the perfect, it was all laid in front of me or not, it doesn't matter. If I think that it was, then it is, right? So that's the concept of, if you think that everything happens for you, not to you, that is going to, if you just have these sort of little mindset hacks, that puts you, whether it's just a mindset hack where you're like psychologically making yourself better, or whether it's like literally like, aligning yourself in the universe, if everything that happens to you, you see as like a positive and a lesson, that is going to be much more beneficial than like constantly hating everything that happens to you and thinking, oh, why did that happen? Why did this happen? Whereas it's your perception of it, right? That's the biggest thing. If your perception is like, it's happened for me so I can learn and become better, then you're going to just be on this flywheel of like, everything's positive, everything's happening for me, I'm getting better, I'm learning the right thing, I met this person at the right time, I did that at the right time. So, but if you don't have that awareness, then yeah, I think everything can be like predetermined, and the way you feel dictates your outcomes. And if you're not like able to break out of that, then you're sort of stuck in it.
So what role has the art of surrender played in your life?
Well, yeah, well, you can't really affect anything that's going to happen to you to some extent. So like I'm a firm believer of, life's a wave, so you just got to learn how to surf,
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're, I learned that as well through like plant medicines and stuff. And so, yeah, it's just you're like in this chaotic soup of the world. It's like a massive ocean. And if you don't learn how to like surf different waves, then you're just going to drown. And a lot of people live in chaos because they try to go against like natural law, and they don't realize the sort of universal things that are happening. And so you do have to like, yeah, surrender to it. And something as well is, the universal law of rhythm. So everything's cyclical. You're going to have like big wins. You're going to have big uphill streaks. And then you're going to have downhill things where things aren't that good. And if you like something that, if I have a downhill trend, and, before I was aware of all this stuff, I had massive downhill trends, and I was just stuck in like anxious thought patterns and loops and stuff. And that's what people do. And they don't realize, first of all, it's like just a cycle. Second of all, if you get caught in these loops, it's like fractaling in your mind. So you got to break out of that. But, things I say to people, it's like there's always rhythms. So if you're on a downtrend, just realize that, yeah, you can feel horrible. And I'm not saying don't feel horrible, because it's just a rhythm. It's just a pattern. But eventually it will get better, And the whole goal in life is to like minimize those downs and maximize those ups, But it doesn't mean you're never not going to get downs.
I got a good question for you then. So, because I love Hermetic Law, dude. I've made so many playlists and videos on this. And I want, if I can really give the audience any gold nugget, it's how to utilize these to change their lives, because I know for a fact you've done it, I've done it, and it's, we've both consciously used this, and they are actionable, and they will change your life. So... Yeah.
Well,
how would you recommend starting to do that? Because it is an actionable thing to use universal laws to change your life.
Yeah, so let's look at the universal laws, because this is interesting, because it's the same thing with awareness. Like if you're not aware of these universal laws, you're at a deficit.
Right. And they're like going anyway. They're, it's like the law's there whether we obey it consciously or not,
Exactly. So that's why everyone that is successful understands these on like, whether they understand them logically and they actually know what they are, or they just embody them already. So for people that don't know them, we'll just read some like in order. So number one is mentalism. All is the mind. The universe is mental. So that's already sort of what we're discussing. Like we dictate our reality through our perception. So we've already sort of discussed that. And like all is the mind. So if you can make your mind as good as possible, and, that doesn't mean you have to be super smart, because like I said, your awareness isn't super smart. Like, a tiger or a certain animal isn't as smart as us, but its awareness is so much better than us, So, it doesn't have anything to really do with IQ. So correspondence, as above, so below. So that's sort of like, I sort of think it in a sense of like, I'm below and something's above me. And so it's links with mentalism. So like, if I can affect my like upper world or whatever is going on above me, or if I affect anything down here, it corresponds to up there. So whether there's some sort of spiritual realm and there's like a higher entity or something, whatever I do down here also reflects up there, and whatever happens up there reflects down here. So I don't know, what's your opinion on the law of correspondence?
So law of correspondence, I call that one, I call the mirror principle, right? So basically like reality is a mirror. And so it wasn't until, again, like expanding your awareness, it wasn't until I saw that who I was. So like, here's the thing is you can take all the laws and you can stack them on top of each other and use them, right? So it's like, it wasn't until I really started reading things like the Kabbalion and just thinking these thoughts that I realized, well, okay, now I'm seeing what I'm thinking and who I'm being in this moment is determining what's happening in my environment, right? So it's like I'm sitting here and observing myself, telling myself I'm a victim, telling myself I'm not worthy, telling myself I can't make money, telling myself I'm fat and I can't get in shape, and everything was reflecting it. And so it's like,
Yeah.
and that's why people say, take aggressive, self-responsibility and ownership for yourself, because it's like you literally are determining the perception of your environment. You're determining the environment itself. You change your environment by changing who you are, right? So it's like it's all a mirror.
Yeah. So it's similar concept as well. So that's law of correspondence. So like your reality corresponds to like your energetic frequency and what you're thinking. So the mirror concept, which is 100%. And then we've got vibration. So nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. So that also is like the same thing. Like if you're vibrating at a certain level, everything's vibration. Polarity. So everything's.
Hold on. Let's dive into the vibration one. Let's give them some nugget there real quick. Yeah. So with vibration, how do you actionably do it? How do you raise your vibration, get yourself out of a low vibration state, and how do you know you're in one?
So there's a certain level where I just think, you got to do what you have to do no matter what state you're in. And that's like discipline. But I do remember when I was first starting all of this sort of stuff, and I probably should do it more often now, but like you put on, like there's things you can watch called like mind movies. And I remember putting on like this mind movie, and it had this song Silence Delirium that I put on my Instagram all the time. And it was just like luxury lifestyle sort of stuff, And like I would like watch it and like get up and sort of like just like shake my body to like get my blood flowing. And I would literally like feel myself like start like peaking energetically. Like I would start feeling like this energy in me just like building, So that Tony Robbins does something similar. I've not really looked into Tony Robbins at all, but I know a friend who says that he's got something similar to that, where you like get up and like sort of jump up and down and it builds the energy in you.
Yeah, that's why movement's so powerful, bro. I mean, it's like, you look at, and you can use the law of correspondence with that too, right? So it's like if you look at a cell under an atomic microscope, when it's like, or even a water molecule, right? When it's super slow, it's cold and it's dense and it's depressed. It's like got a cold heart, right? But as soon as this molecule picks up speed, it gets hot, it gets a lot of energy, and it starts to just take over, right? And it's like literally the same exact thing with us because we're made up of those things.
Exactly. And I mean, that's really, really good. And then, I mean, if you're at a certain energetic state, you can attract things way more. You can like potentially, get into different timelines faster because you're like energetically on a higher level. And certain things at certain vibratory levels like attract each other. And so when you're at a certain vibration, you can bring in certain opportunities. But also for anyone that thinks it's all like woo-woo stuff as well, if you also think about, if you put yourself in like a high energetic state where you're literally feeling your energy build, your hormones are probably also like peaking at that point as well, which allows your brain to actually be somewhat in a better state to make decisions and like perceive the world. Because if your hormones are like fucked, your brain is not going to be thinking the right way.
Mm-hmm.
So with all this like spiritual stuff, it also corresponds to like physical, like physiology and actual like evolutionary traits. So I think they're always both linked, which is
Mm-hmm.
something that is because a lot of people speak about this spiritual stuff as like solely spiritual and quantum, but it all then relates back to our physiology as well because we're like it's all connected.
Right, and that's like as above, so below. I mean, it transcends from spiritual to mental to physical. So it's like, everything we do, and that's why, like, when you try and do a physical change, the concept of be do have, obviously, right?
No.
So okay, so be do have is it's a biblical concept, but it's just like this. So it's basically you have to be someone to do something to have something.
Mm.
Right? And so it's like it's not until everyone tries to just do, but they don't change the be, right? And so it's like you have to first change who you're being, which is like your thoughts, your beliefs, and everything in that realm, which is also spiritual. It's like who you are, right? And then once you do that, you can then go into the do because you can't do anything unless you're the person who can do it,
Yeah.
right? And then the doing leads to those results of having, and then having reaffirms the being, and so it's like this cycle.
Yeah, so that's something that I like realized when I was first starting my journey, and it was the concept of like archetypes, the concept of archetypes and like energetic frequencies. And since we're on the topic of vibration, so archetypes and energetic frequencies and timelines. So that's what I always think of stuff as. And so when I first started my journey, I used to play video games. I was like skinny fat, had no money, etc. And then I was like, all right, well, if you look at the version of the person who is that, they're taking certain actions and they have certain thoughts that are putting them in that reality.
Mm-hmm.
So if you then look to a version of yourself that you want to be, you have to literally become that person. So write down what that person does. What do they think? What are they eating? What's their daily routine? And if you do that and you align yourself to that, you will then become that person. So, and it's literally inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to become, a pro athlete, or you want to become a bodybuilder, or, for example, you want to become the best version of yourself that is physically fit, has an online business, makes money, and lives in total freedom, which is what I wanted. It's like, all right, what does that person do? And let me write down what that person does, and then think, all right, there's literally a version of me right now that is doing that, and all I need to do is do the actions to like bridge to that reality. So it's like write down what that person does. The person eats clean, the person eats healthy, they work out, they're building an online business, but not just that surface. Actually go deeper. It's like, what are they eating? How are they thinking about their food? What are they working out? What's their workout plan? What business are they doing? How do they feel about doing business? Like, do they get excited when they sit to their laptop? So it's also that sort of energetic level of it. And then once you start doing that, you will become that person.
There is so much sauce in this podcast. It is absolutely disgusting. And so I know you got stuff to do. So, I mean, let's like kind of go through the rest of the universal laws. So what are like the rest of them we don't have to break them down, but what are the rest of them?
Yeah. Well, I think there's some that are more important than others. So polarity, so everything's dual, everything has poles and opposites.
Yeah.
I don't find that one that much important. Rhythm, so everything flows in and out, everything has tides, everything rises and falls, which we discussed in depth already. And then law of cause and effect. So that is the biggest one. So
I know you love that one. You love that one. I know that.
yeah, because that's the biggest thing. So everything has its cause. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law.
Mm-hmm.
So that means if I go to the gym every day and I eat perfect macros, I'm going to get jacked. There's literally no way around it,
Mm-hmm.
If you are overweight and you don't eat healthy, you are going to be unhealthy and overweight. There's no way. You can't escape the law. If I start trying to think better and level up my consciousness will get better. If I just sit, play video games, and have vapes all day, everything's going to have an outcome.
Right. And that's what so many people focus on is the effect, right? They focus on the effect. I'm going to get more views. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to date more people, like whatever it is, but they don't focus on the actual cause, which are the inputs, right? So it's like, okay, how are you going to get those views? Well, you better be doing at least one video a day, right? How are you going to get that body? Well, you go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week on this perfect schedule, and then you can do some like cardio, like whatever it is, whatever aligns to that effect. But it's like really, yeah, aligning yourself to that cause. It is one of the most massive ones. And like if you apply all this stuff to your mind, every single one can actionably be used to change your life, including law of polarity, right? So it's like if you're in a negative situation right now, realize also a positive one exists, and you can use mental transmutation and neutralize that using the other laws to align yourself to the positive pole. And so, I mean, yeah, we're getting to another subject, but if you guys want a video on universal laws from both me and Chris, I want you to subscribe right now, and I want you to comment universal laws. But wrapping this up, let's talk about what you're building right now and how people can start being the cause of their life and create an effect that turns them into the person they want to become. You are someone who can definitely help them do that. What are you building?
So I got time if you want to go over, but I got like an hour. But I mean, obviously, we want to keep this
cool.
going.
Yeah, we chilling. Yeah, we good. I thought you had something to go
just to let you know. No, I got. So I got.
I'm over here rushing the whole thing. Yeah.
No. I mean, I don't know if you want this to be short and bite-sized for people to consume, or we can just go, ham.
I think they want it. So yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I've never really spoke like this under Chris Reader. So some people are going to look at this and be like, "Wow, I didn't know this guy was into this stuff." But polarity is an interesting one. Like, I learned this trick from this psychologist, and you can flip it. So if you feel anxious, what's the inverse of that? Excitement. So don't tell yourself you're anxious. Tell yourself you're excited. And try and find the inverse of every emotion. So what am I building now? So in terms of like what my business, my life, like what do you mean by that?
So you got profit singularity coming. Right?
Yeah. So
let's.
So towards my business side of stuff. So
right.
Yeah, I do affiliate marketing, and so I used to do affiliate marketing on Facebook for a long time, and I had a lot of success with that. And then Facebook became difficult, so I pivoted with a business partner to YouTube, and we basically, I mean, I guarantee every single person here's probably seen one of the ads because we have students like absolutely crushing it.
Dude, I see them
and we basically
everywhere, bro. They're like a virus.
Yeah, so we we were sort of leveraging AI before ChatGPT, and so we created this way of like creating YouTube videos with AI. AI voices, AI videos, and we sell products. We sell ClickBank products. Mm-hmm. And so, this method just really works. We sell different weight loss supplements and all that sort of stuff on ClickBank. And the way I see affiliate marketing, I think it's the best business model ever because the foundation of the economy is making so much money every day. Money's flowing through the economy. And with affiliate marketing, all you're doing is just like turning on a tap. Like if there's a massive river of the economy, all affiliate marketing is just like making a little stream off that, getting traffic, and billions are being spent every day. So if you can just get like, 1/1000th of that, you're going to be making a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And so the concept in affiliate marketing is like, how can you get traffic? How can you get some of that, economic flow to your offer with your like tag on it so you get paid? And so we use YouTube, and we have this specific way of writing scripts, building videos that are like high converting funnels so we can generate, sales. And that's how our students have been able to do $273 million in 3 years, is like following our exact formula. And I know you joined the course in 2001, I believe 2002, and you didn't do the method we taught, but you took the script writing element of it.
Yeah.
Because that's the most powerful thing as well as like ad copy, like the psychology behind it.
Yeah, it was the structure of it more than anything. Just like the psychological aspects of the structure that, trigger. Because at the end of the day, it's like money. That's what I learned too. I was so bad with money, bro. I was horrible with it. And so really, I would say like Profit Singularity did give me like an awakening moment with money, because it showed me that money is just like a flow of energy at the end of the day. And all we're doing is like, that's why we call it cash flow, right? So it's like water. And it's like you got streams of money coming in. You're catching the cash flow and you're directing it into different, ways to capture that water, that energy, right? And so it's like inside, I saw so many ways of, how language and structuring scripts and all this stuff can be used to, like direct energy in different ways using like psychological elements. And that was huge. But yeah, you're saying.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like the concept of marketing is the biggest thing, because that's how everything makes money. It's like you market, like you can't just build a business. You're not going to make money unless you have marketing. For example, even if you have a physical store, if you don't have signs and stuff, which is a basic form of marketing. But yeah, so we teach Profit Singularity, and so we've got like massive success stories.
Right.
Obviously we've had $273 million generated by students, but there's been some students that have hit ClickBank Diamond. So we've got, I believe, 10 plus students that have made $5 million in a year.
Bro, okay, so you're an authority on this because how much have you done? That's what they're like, who is this guy talking, right? How much have you done? What's one of your record years? I know it was like 10 million in 3 months, right?
Yeah, so I've got different elements of affiliate marketing. So I've done like 50K days, and I've also done, $1 million in a day in revenue as well,
Dude, what? And those margins are like 60 or something, right? 60 plus?
Well, on that, business partners and such. So it's obviously not like I'm not pocketing $1 million in a day. That's got smaller margins and right. Stuff. But with the business model, when I was doing Facebook, I used to do like 15, 20K days, and I'll be maybe making like, 5 to like 8K profit a day. And then with YouTube, it just became so much easier, man. Like so much easier with YouTube, just the way that the platform works. And I've scaled up to, 40 and 50K days. And so on those days, I'm doing like, the ROI can sort of fluctuate. Maybe I'll be doing 10 to like 20K profit in a day. So these are all awards that I've got for doing like, they've done, they're all awards for doing like 250K.
That's absurd, bro.
And so, I haven't hit ClickBank Diamond yet, which is $5 million a year, but that's because I've done $5 million a year on other platforms other than ClickBank.
And it's just like
when I found affiliate marketing, I was like, this is like a money hack. It's like
it is a hack, bro. You're just like, and I've done it. It's like, I'd set up a full funnel in like an hour, right? And so it's like you can really just press a few buttons and you turn it on. Obviously, like there's elements to it, but it's very, very simple, especially for people that just want to make money and, not have to worry about like all these like nuts and bolts of business. It's really a hack. But it's like, for the people listening, how hard was it for you to grasp like seeing one day $1 million in a single day? Like, was there a point that was just like unimaginable to you?
It is pretty insane. It is pretty insane. But like once you see what's possible, you're like, dude, I'm gonna hit that.
Yeah.
So like once I like got into this flow, I was like, everything happened in like a sequence of events, and I was like, I know it's like, dude, I know there's people making like $10 million a month. There's people out there doing like ridiculous numbers.
Right.
So all I would say is like, why not me? It's like, all right, it's the same thing. It's like, what's the version of me that's doing that? And, some of these vendors that we sell their products, they do. I met this guy when I was in San Diego speaking at an event. He had a product that I promoted, and I made a lot of money on his product, and he made a lot of money from me. and he was doing like 50 million a year.
Bro.
And so once you step into this like affiliate world, you're like, wow, you know, I've had students that like far out like exceeded my results. Like we've had students typically when they have massive success, they don't really share. Mm-hmm. They don't continue sharing with you. But we've had students do like 150K days, you know?
And so that's something I want to touch on is, you know, you can make a lot of money, but did that ever lead to the fulfillment? Like, where did you find fulfillment in the journey? Because there's so many people that get attached to money's going to buy me, you know, happiness and stuff. And it's like, yeah, you're definitely a lot happier when you have money than when you're broke. Like, let's be honest. Like, money can buy, you know, freedom, right? And freedom.
It's just like energy, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like saying you're going to be a lot happier if you have like legs and you can move around, you know? Because if you're like bedridden, you're not going to be as happy as if you had legs. And it's like, if you got money, you're going to be happier than if you didn't have money because you got more opportunity and stuff. But I do think money, you need to have some sort of like, you know, like holistic approach. You need to have some sort of holistic approach because if you just have money, then and you have no like spirituality or you have no like sort of deeper sense, then you can just fall into degeneracy, you know. And you know, you could just like buy, you know, the Lamborghinis, do the drugs and all that sort of stuff that people do and like become a degenerate. But I mean, when you're sort of like, I'm aiming for like, I just really want to grow my business and just generate, you know, I want to create sort of like generational wealth, you know? Mm-hmm. And so it starts small and it's like, you know, once you have a business, it's like exciting. You can work on it. You can run ads. You can scale your businesses. But, you know, I bought, as you know, I have like farmland with a cousin of mine.
Yeah.
And I own like a Lamborghini's worth of cows, you know? So I could have bought a Lamborghini, but I bought cows.
Which I would take the cows, honestly. Yeah, I mean, unreal.
Yeah. And so that's dude, like, yeah, so that's exciting. Like being on a farm and thinking like, you know, that's got rivers. You're like, no one else is going to like own this land. No one else is going to like swim in this river. So it's like owning resources is like pretty crazy. And, you know, I want to build like an eco resort and I want to build a community. I want to like have high quality food. And so I just want to build like a holistic place that, you know, I can go and other people can go to experience. And that's what excites me, you know, being able to be in nature, like high quality land, you know, like I said, now my sort of creative animal side with like a little kid's coming back out, you know?
Right. Yeah, dude, I think we're all kind of going in that direction. There's so many, I think every entrepreneur, it seems like, wants to do that because, we can just see what's going on in the world and like society. And there's just it's so much separation from nature. And I really think that's where every single problem stems from. And I know for a fact it is. And so it's like, yeah, we can try and fulfill ourselves with all these like man-made things all day. But it's like, at the end of the day, we always find ourselves returning to nature.
Yeah, dude, nothing's more fun than like swimming down a river with like you know, or like riding a motorbike through the bush, you know? Yeah. Like I'm sure driving a Lamborghini's fun, but you know, I'd rather drive my Lamborghini down to a farm.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, go get some raw milk. Yeah, I'm with you, bro.
So that's exciting, yeah.
Yeah, so that's obviously part of your future plan. So like, what did you say? Like timelines of 1 through like 5 years from now. What are your like biggest goals? Where do you see yourself, you know, kind of going to and becoming? Who do you see yourself becoming?
I mean, I just want to stay on my path. So I don't typically have these sort of big, I have like goals, like I have sort of financial goals and stuff, but I'm not really a big fan of putting, like I'll have like lifestyle goals. And like ultimately the biggest one is just be like healthy and have like complete freedom. So once I hit that, like I'm already winning, you know, so I'm already winning. Mm-hmm. But I don't really, like I have obviously financial goals and stuff I want to hit, but I see it as like I just like want to project my vision forward. Like I have a high beams on in a car. So I don't really focus on like a singular thing. I just focus on like a vision of what I sort of envision. and I'm like putting my high beams on. And so that, because that means like, if you're driving in a car, your destination is going to change 5 years from now. My outcome could probably be different to what I think right now. So I'm just going to project to what I think, and then I'm going to like find the path along the way. And so then that way my brain's adapted and my brain thinks flexibly about like towards where I'm going, and I'm not just like myopic about it.
100%. And so it's like that's really what you're doing too now, is helping people get to that point where they can do those things with profit singularity. So do you want to touch a little bit more on like what's inside of that? When you're kind of looking at it, taking that to the next level, how people can get involved where they're like, yeah, I really resonate with the way Chris thinks. I really want to take control and be the cause of my life. Like, how can they, give them the sauce?
Yeah. So, I mean, every year we relaunch Profit Singularity to make it better.
Yeah.
And now, like I said, we were using AI before AI even became a thing. And so now we've literally developed like AI tools where it just creates the scripts for us. Like we literally put a couple inputs and it creates the script for us. You then put the script in a video creator, it creates the video for us. So it is very, the business model is super simple because there's 3 steps to affiliate marketing, right? You've got your traffic, and in that case, we've got our ad. Mm-hmm. And then you've got your landing page, and then you have the offer. And the only real thing you need to focus on is the ad and the landing page. And unlike drop shipping and stuff, you don't have to find the winning product. All the winning affiliate products are already listed there for you to start running. And yeah, so we're launching the Profit Singularity in September, around September the 5th to the 15th. And we're doing a big launch. And we've got all these brand new tools and stuff. And the reason we call it a Profit Singularity is because like when people find their winning ad, they're like numbers just go like this. Like we have screenshots of people just going like this to like 15K days, 30K days, 50K days. Like, so it's like a singularity. Like once it clicks for you and you find a winning ad, it's literally like a singularity. And it's also funny because since we started the course, our students, the income graph of like how much our students made year over year to now 276 mil is like insane. It's actually honestly crazy to think that like I've helped generate that much money in the like economy. That's like a lot of money.
Dude, I mean, like as a byproduct, you've helped me generate millions in my business, right? And so it's like literally using those. It is like a singularity. I've used pretty much the same ad format and script since the beginning, just getting better at it over and over, right? And so it's not that complicated. And once you do it, you have AI to really just take care of the rest for you. So,
well, that's why I was so stoked when you sent me that, because we teach like basic marketing principles. Like we teach like not basic, the foundations of marketing at a higher level. So like you can take the skills, and through doing online business and stuff, like I've got so many different skills that I can do. Like I could do just so much random stuff just because I've been doing so many things. Mm-hmm. And that's why when you would send me your screenshots, I was like so stoked because like you adapted, you learned something and you've got that in your tool belt and you adapted it to what you're doing. 100%. And that was like, that's like the whole concept of being an entrepreneur, and that's how like I developed the model. I adapted stuff, and to see you adapt it into what you were doing was like sick.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing too, with Profit Singularity is like, even if someone doesn't want to do affiliate marketing, what they'll learn inside are like principles that will keep them, making money for the rest of their life. Like they'll never have to worry about being broke or any of that stuff, because it's just like those timeless psychology principles of marketing, of sales, of the way people work, and it literally translates into your relationships with women, with guys. If you're a woman listening, I mean, it literally translates into everything. And so, yeah, it's like that's what I learned from it, is just how to think differently. But is there like a wait list people can get on?
Yeah, so we have so it is like a lot. We do only launch it like once a year. And I don't know if you can hear that, but yeah,
I heard.
So we have we have a webinar, and so by the time this video goes up, we'll definitely have a link that they can click in the bio, or wherever you can post a link. and they can sign up. They can get all, like, we teach people the method, and then we give them the option if they want to join as well. And we have a bunch of resources and stuff that they can look through.
Oh yeah, love it. Yeah, I think let's wrap it up here. So I'll get that link from you, but yeah, man, is there any like golden nuggets you would give that would make someone a top 1% entrepreneur, help them generate, cash flow at the levels that you've done, that's like really going to separate from the pack of all these people just blowing smoke on social media?
Yeah, I think focus on the vehicle that you're in. The effort that you put into one vehicle, it's just like if you have a rowboat versus super yacht, So focus on a vehicle, and, the effort that you put into one vehicle could be multiplied by like times 10 in another vehicle, right? So it's just like, someone in a speedboat versus someone in a canoe. Mm-hmm. So focusing on the vehicle that you're in is going to be massive. There's even people out there that I know that are super smart and they work regular jobs. And I think these people are that smart. If they put their brain to work in their own business, they can take it so far. So focusing on the vehicle. And there's this mantra that I've always had from my mentor, and it's like, take massive actions, stay laser focused, and never give up. And that's like the key to life. That's like the key to literally anything. The gym, business, anything. If you're taking massive, consistent action, you're staying laser focused, so you're not getting distracted, and then you never give up. You're always, it's like inevitable that you're going to win.
Absolutely. I love that. So where can they follow you? I'm going to get that link to have it in the description, but where can they follow you? Where can they learn more about you? I know you have a YouTube, right?
Yeah, I got a YouTube. So YouTube and Instagram. So Chris Reader. I post consistently on my yeah. I don't really post that frequently on YouTube, but I will be posting. I've done a ton of student interviews, including you. You're going to be on there as well, which is awesome.
Let's go.
YouTube and Instagram, Chris Reader. And yeah, don't follow the scam accounts. I'm verified on Instagram, so.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. That needs to be said. But on that note, bro, thank you for sharing all that stuff. There's literally so much sauce in this, especially with like the esoteric stuff. So I think that's it seems like a lot of what both of our purpose kind of leads up to is sharing that knowledge with the world, just because it needs to be known and it needs to be seen. And there are people in the world that don't want that to be a reality. And so, it is kind of our duty to shed light on those things. I highly recommend all you guys hit up Chris, ask him some questions. I'm sure he's open to it, and learn more about what he does. But on that note, this was the Stampede Network podcast. I'm your host, Mason Kuhr. That is Chris Reader. Thank you, Chris, for coming on the show. Absolutely killed it. And I will see you guys.